Hey everyone, happy Monday. Well, I gotta be honest, guys, I was not anticipating going live this morning. After, I guess it's officially afternoon now, at least on the East Coast. But then I woke up and really started to dig into these documents that Chris Rufo unearthed from Disney last week. I kind of skimmed over them over the weekend, but I really started to actually read them this morning. And I kind of figured, well, I have to read these documents anyway, and there's so much gold in here that it's not even funny. And so I kind of just thought, why not just go live? Why not just go live? And that way I can share my misery with all of you. Well, not just that. I also want to explain fundamentally what I think some of this stuff means because I was in corporate training for a really long time. I do still do corporate training on occasion. Actually, fun fact, what's funny is about a year after the death of George Floyd, I am finally starting to get requests for non-woke corporate training again. I have gotten a bunch in the last couple of weeks, and I haven't even been selling training or doing anything like that. I'm just getting emails from clients or like people who are referred to me by word of mouth being like, can we do this type of training? Can we do that type of training? I'm like, is non-woke corporate training making a comeback? I don't even know what to say. So maybe we're headed in the right direction. Who knows? But I do want to take some time to talk about these documents. There's a whole 20-page PDF of them. This is actually the resource we're going to use. The Allyship for Race Consciousness from the Walt Disney Company. Reimagine Tomorrow, where we all belong. So basically what we're going to do, guys, is I am going to read these documents and I will be paying attention to the chat as I'm going through them because you guys will keep me sane in this particular. Oh, hey God. Okay. All right, they're gotta have my full screen. But I'm counting on you all to keep me sane during this. Now, if you do want to play Unwoke Bingo, our usual game that we do on Fridays, though we might not do it on Friday this week because I'm going to be traveling for a conference. But I did put the Unwoke Bingo card link in the description below if you'd like to get your Unwoke Bingo card. Not a requirement, but just something kind of pass the time to be a little fun. Alexander DeJohn says, this is so depressing, the decline of Disney because of woke culture. Well, I kind of think the decline of everything because of woke culture is a little bit depressing, but that's just me. All right, guys, before we get into this, I do want to remind you that one way that you can support my channel is to become a member of my Locals community. Locals is a place where I know I won't be censored or banned, and you won't either. And it's like social media for adults. It's really, really nice. It's our own private little place where there are no trolls, none of that nonsense. Now, you can join Locals for free. You can find the link in the description below, kb.locals.com. You can also support my work by becoming a monthly or annual member. Now, when you become an annual member, you get 2 months free. Being a monthly member starts at $5 a month. It unlocks all of the different features in Locals, including our Zoom calls that we do twice a week, our book clubs, our debate clubs, being able to comment on the post, all sorts of other stuff. But if you join as an annual member, you get 2 months for free. All right. Now that we get that promo out of the way, let's dig in to these documents. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller on my screen so I can actually read it, guys. Sorry about that. All right. Now, as a reminder, these are documents that Chris Rufo uncovered from Disney last week. He's talked about what he thinks they mean on their website. I have linked to that website in the description below, but I'm also going to read it for myself because I'm a big girl and I can, do this work on my own. I don't need men to tell me what they think they mean. Okay, I'm just kidding about that last part. All right, let's read the documents. Many of us are wondering how we can step up to support Black colleagues and promote racial justice. Think of this guide, asterisk, as one of the many starting points to become an ally. Throughout the guide, we have been intentional about addressing both white and non-Black people of color allies because each group can extend different and distinct types of allyship. While this is not an exhaustive list, there are 3 critical components to being an ally: learning, reflecting, and engaging. Thought starters for all allies. The struggle is real. Solidarity and mutuality are our common goals. This hard work is not a moment in time, and it is an ongoing learning journey. This work requires more than attending a parade or a rally to demonstrate support. Do not take the responsibility of being an ally lightly. This is about building self-awareness through education and advocating for institutional change. Allyship is not self defined, it is defined by the individual or group of whom you are an ally. So, white people, don't think for 1 second that you can call yourself an ally because you are not allowed to define what being an ally means. You are an ally when the individual or group says so and recognizes you as one. Being an ally is not about recognition, promotion, or reward. Allies are not saviors. Oh really? Oh really? Are we sure they don't see themselves as saviors? You are an ally. Rather, allyship is all about common good and changing the world. Allyship 101. Allyship is a relationship with an underrepresented individual or group outside of your own identity, e.g., disability, racial or ethnic identity, gender identity, religion, veteran status. Guys, religion. Oh my God. Guys, you can all be my ally because I'm not a Christian. All of you can be my ally in my own distinct brand of spirituality because I am not a Christian. Therefore, I need good little Christian allies to ally with me. Oh, while we're at it, guys, please make sure you mount that like button. Please and thank you. If you want to be a good ally to me in my non-Christianship, you can mount that like button. That's how I'm going to define an ally. Anyone who mounts that like button for me. Learn. Deepening your insight and knowledge is a critical first step to understanding the magnitude and complexity of the current state and building empathy to authentically connect with your colleagues. Take ownership of educating yourself about structural anti Black racism in the current and historical context. Opt for sources from Black authors, journalists, and organizations. See resources below. Do not rely on your Black colleagues to educate you. This is emotionally taxing. Consider the ways multiple dimensions of identity, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, socioeconomic status, veterans can make people vulnerable to interlocking. I'm surprised they didn't use intersectional, interlocking forms of bias or sections or systems of exclusion. For example, Black, transgender, and gender nonconforming people face some of the highest levels of discrimination. Read public posts by Black authors to understand the emotional complexity of navigating the workplace. Ben says, I'm more right than Dr. K, but I support her message. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. Proactively seek out Black stories that reflect success, joy, and creativity. Black history and Black experiences are more than traumatic stories. Well, you wouldn't think so based on the things they tell you to read all the time. Share your learnings with colleagues, friends, and families, including kids and teens who are not allies. Be thoughtful about inundating your Black colleagues with your new found. Don't read all the things we tell you to read, but don't talk to your Black colleagues about it. Reflect. Being introspective will allow you to explore how dimensions of your identity affect your lived experience and ways to manage your emotions without inadvertently burdening others. Recognize that power and privilege you have are based on who you are. Consider your motivation as an ally now. Reflect on the questions below. As a person who aspires to be an ally, oh God, I feel so dirty reading those words. As a person who aspires to be an ally, how have you shown up in the past? How can you affect change in your sphere of influence? Oh, I'm working on affecting change in my sphere of influence. Is there an opportunity to share your learning with other allies? Mike says, I can't take it anymore. Mike, we're only like 4 pages into it, dude. We're 4 pages in. This is a training document. This is a workplace document. What we're reading right now from one of the largest companies in the world. Workplace training document. Reflect on the diversity of your personal and professional networks and how racial and other dimensions of your identity give or do not give you access and advantage. Proximity to Black people or being part of marginalized groups does not mean you cannot harbor bias. Acknowledge your emotional reactions in this process and source of discomfort and productive ways to address it. Examine and work through feelings of guilt and shame and defensiveness to understand what is beneath them and what needs to be healed. Naruto says, I feel like people pushing crap like this have never heard the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah, you're probably right. Recognize your colleagues are also processing the ways in which the pandemic is disproportionately affecting the Black community. Okay. If you are feeling confused or shocked or have recently awakened to systemic racism, Recognize that this is probably not new to your Black and African American colleagues. Avoid messages like, I can't believe this is happening. The murders of Breonna Taylor, shot all these other names I'm not going to read. And then they'll say I'm racist for not reading the names, whatever. Blah blah blah. Countless others are part of long history of systemic racism and transphobia. Transphobia. If you have trans on the bingo card, there it is. In solidarity with U.S. protests, we are seeing similar protests now due to police brutality targeted to Black people around the world. The current unrest represents a tipping point and heightened awareness of the movement. Engage. Embracing discomfort and humility along the way will enable your growth as an ally. While it is important to minimize unintended harm, that should not inhibit you from taking action. It is okay to make mistakes and learn from them. Oh, good. We have a checklist of what it means to be accountable. Let's see. Be willing to make mistakes and be open to feedback. If you make a mistake, apologize and commit to doing better next time. A mistake, by the way, they're probably defining mistake as anything that a Black person that you said that you anything that a Black person said that you did was wrong. That's how they're going to define mistake. While feedback may sting, resist the urge to defend your intent or center your feelings and instead focus on the impact you had on the affected person. You know, if these people were smart, what they would actually do is look at the research on feedback by a guy named David Rock, who I'm sure has gone totally. I wonder if David Rock's gone woke. Hang on. Hang on. We're going to take a look. David Rock feedback. I think that's his name. David Rock. Yes, this guy. What they should do is look at the research of a guy named David Rock, who basically, okay, I'll give you guys the short version. Basically, what David Rock says is, and what he's done is he's actually measured what happens in the brain when they get feedback. Basically, anytime your sympathetic nervous system lights up like a Christmas tree, and it is impossible to not be defensive. So if these people actually were cared about their ideas getting implemented, they wouldn't be doing it in this manner because it is actually physiologically very, very difficult to make any tangible progress when it comes to this type of thing. So, you know, but they don't really care about making progress. They only care about I don't know, shaming people for their agenda. Guys, if you are a member on the channel, you now have access to the special mount the like button emoji. There we go. All right. Identify ways to share your access to opportunities or resources, amplify voices, and interrupt bias, and confirm with the group/person to whom you are an ally if they want specific support. Allies are not saviors. Check in thoughtfully. Consider your relationship, the level of trust, and whether you are prepared to provide real support. It is okay if you do not get a response, and if you do, then listen thoughtfully. Listening with intent can be powerful to make genuine connections. Challenge colorblind ideologies. Okay, so guys, the thing that I've seen popping up more and more is this idea of colorblind racism. What they're saying is that if you make the choice to treat people just as individuals, just as like real life human beings without respect to what their skin color happens to be, if you make the choice to just treat someone like a normal person, you're being racist because you aren't treating them according to how they think you should be based on the color of their skin. Challenge colorblind ideologies and rhetoric, e.g., all lives matter or I don't see color. It is harmful and hurtful, as it is a form of erasing the real and specific ways racial identities affect lived experiences. Contribute to Black community by consistently supporting Black/African American owned businesses and or volunteering for organizations that advance racial equity and justice. So, fun fact, after the riots that followed George Floyd's death, I made pretty sizable donations to Black-owned businesses that had been destroyed, but I refused to give to Black Lives Matter. And I actually made a public post on LinkedIn at the time, which I don't really use anymore, but I was at the time. And I said, I'm not donating to Black Lives Matter. I am donating to Black-owned businesses that were destroyed by the riots. Was that good enough for these people? No, of course it's not. Of course it's not, because it's not about actually helping Black-owned businesses. It's about supporting their little causes. Notify your human resources business partner, employee relations, or diversity and inclusion representative. If you see problematic posts on Slack, or company approved social media channels. All right. Be involved. Do not question or debate Black colleagues' lived experiences. For example, are you sure they meant it that way? It's not a race thing. I'm playing devil's advocate. Instead, reserve judgment and offer statements of validation if someone shares their experience. Acknowledge and listen with empathy when Black colleagues share their lived experiences. Avoid saying, I feel you. I have been there. And instead just say, I hear you. Tell me more about what that felt like. Avoid conflating the Black experience with other communities of color. While other people of color are subjected to racism, there is a unique history that has led to anti Black racism and the ways that shows up. Ooh, this was obviously written before the Stop Asian Hate movement. Avoid reposting traumatic images and videos and asking your Black colleagues to recount their experiences. Continually looking at these traumatic images will desensitize you. Reflect on why you need to consume that and its impact on you and who you may be emotionally impacting and whether or not your intent outweighs the harm it inflicts. So Disney is literally telling its employees that they're not allowed to consume certain media because of how that might affect other people. Wow. Okay. So he says no alcohol. It's early for that, dude. I don't even have any in the house. I don't think. I don't normally drink. I only drink on Fridays or when I'm traveling. Do not call on your Black colleagues to represent the voice of the community. While they share experiences of being Black in America, the community is not a monolith. Avoid using statements like, let's keep this conversation professional or politics. Wow. Disney is actually telling people to have political conversations at work. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong when you tell your employees to avoid using statements like, let's keep this conversation professional or politics don't belong at work to try to shut down conversations that's happening? That's what they're doing. All right. Be aware of microaggressions, which can be statements that devalue someone. A few examples of these statements are, you are very articulate. You are not like others I met from the Black community, and I like your Black son. Who says that? Oh my god. Allyship is not about credit, reward, or showcasing all the ways you are saving the world. BLM Inc. is a front. When you donate, it doesn't go directly to them. It goes to the DNC pass through Act Blue. Well, I mean, it does go to them. Just because a payment processor is like Act Blue is a credit card payment processor. That's all it is. So it does actually go to them, but Act Blue is processing the payment. It's like PayPal, dude. All right, institution. Be aware of tokenism. When Black professionals are expected to be representative for their entire race, mention professional skills and qualities of Black colleagues when they are not around to provide visibility and sponsorship. And isn't sponsorship a form of token? I don't even care. These people contradict themselves all the time. If you are saying you are an ally or sponsoring someone, isn't that kind of the same as like tokenizing them? I don't know. Endorse and recognize Black colleagues' contributions and accomplishments publicly. Provide mentoring and sponsorship within your sphere of influence to bridge the gaps in access and support for Black colleagues and candidates. Proactively offer opportunities for sustained career growth and advocate for professional development to help promote Black talent. Well, the thing of it is especially when you're in actually a leadership position, it's your job to proactively offer opportunities for sustained career growth and advocate for development to everyone, to everyone, to every employee. When you're in a leadership position, it's your job to do this for everyone, not just for one specific race of people. That's racism. You do it for everyone. You do it based on merit and skill and potential. This isn't hard. Practice fairness to counter the stereotypes and biases around capabilities and competencies. Create an environment where authenticity around Black identity is welcome and embraced. Provide transparency on access to career growth opportunities, stretch assignments, skill building courses, high profile projects, exposure to leadership. So, when I decided to look at this document live, I was basically reading a little later in the document where they tell managers to provide to basically assign projects based on skin color. And they're doing the same thing here. Provide transparency on access to career growth opportunities like stretch assignments, skill building courses, high profile projects. They're saying you should do these things based on skin color. That sounds kind of racist. It does. It sounds a little bit racist. Demonstrate accountability for harassment and discrimination. Reach out to human resources and employee relations partners for guidance and advice. And then we've got some good reference documents. We'll have to check out those later. I'm certainly not reading that now. Did they mention white fragility anywhere? No. Oh, they did mention the Harvard implicit bias test. You can go take your implicit bias test from Harvard. Okay. What can I do about anti-racism and anti-racism discussion guide? If you've been watching the news or perusing social media these days, you've seen videos more heart wrenching than you'd ever want to witness. The recent deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, along with countless others, have caused protests and riots to spring up across the globe. These injustices, coupled with the anti Asian racism and xenophobia fueled by COVID-19, has prompted many of us to ask this question worldwide: what can I do about racism? Oh my God. These people are nuts. Hang on. Coffee break. Coffee. This is what I'm drinking today in my I Knit and I Know Things mug. All right. Some of the individual, insidious instances of racism, like implicit bias and microaggressions, are difficult to identify and quantify, let alone fight. How do we, as individuals, make a difference? Anti racism can begin here by increasing our awareness of the discrimination people of color face daily. You notice in the first part of the document must have been written before the anti Asian stuff, and now they've added an additional resource after the anti-Asian stuff. Anti-racism can begin here by increasing our awareness of the discrimination of people of color face daily. Education comes next, followed by a thorough self-examination. Then, these ideas must be coalesced into action, because all of the ideas in the world don't mean anything if people do not feel safe, seen, and secure in their workplaces and communities. This discussion guide, oh, guys, we get to have a discussion. This discussion guide will prepare you to have an open dialogue about racism with your colleagues. The link to the Blue Ocean Brain Library, I'm going to have to look up Blue Ocean later, obviously, and outside resources will help you dive deeper into these topics for further conversation and reference. This guide is built not to cast blame, but to provide information that can help build skills. Racism is certainly not new for many countries around the world, but the consistent recording of the atrocities of people of color are facing sheds new light on this old problem, one that we can work together to end. Jenny's getting in with us. Says, are Uyghurs not considered Asians? No. You know, the fact that they're in camps in China is just cultural norms, Jenny. That's just cultural norms, different cultural norms. All right, got a lot to get through. Unconscious contributions to racism. Part 1. Racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone because of a different race based on the belief of one's own race is superior. Well, that used to be the definition of racism. That's actually not the definition of racism anymore, but Disney's going old school. All right. You might be saying to yourself, oh, great, based on that definition, I'm not a racist. Oh, little do you know, you're still a racist. Congratulations. So this discussion guide is for other people. I don't believe that my race is superior to anyone else's. The problem is that systemic racism, bingo word, or racism carried out by groups with power like societies, governments, businesses, and schools benefits some people and harms others despite your personal belief. What's more, individual racism is often buried deep, affecting people who have only the best intentions, and the impact can compound to people inside and outside of work, whether you realize it or not. So, no, just because they've got this racism definition highlighted here in blue doesn't mean that's the definition of racism that they're using. Okay. They're using trickery. Disney is using trickery in a corporate training guide. My god. Implicit bias. Implicit biases are negative beliefs you're not even aware you have that can still affect your understanding of, action towards, and decisions about other people. Our workplaces and communities are often filled with the effects of implicit bias, which can be passed from generation to generation. Implicit bias, which, another word for implicit bias might be unconscious bias. You're not consciously aware of it. It's generational. You gained your implicit bias from your grandparents, your great grandparents, all of whom I'm sure were racist. Yep, Julianne says, sounds like a religious doctrine. Oh, doesn't it? It does indeed. Thank you for the support. Hiring processes and decisions tend to more favorably view people who look, act, and sound like those doing the hiring, who often primarily are white. And that's only if people of color get the interview. Hiring managers often make assumptions about applications based on name, colleges, and fraternity or sorority memberships, which impact whether an applicant is considered. Well, I wasn't a member of a fraternity, well, obviously not a fraternity, a sorority in college, so I guess, I guess every company that didn't hire me was just being racist because I wasn't in a sorority in college. Behavior such as ignoring or disbelieving. Notice, by the way, they're going to provide a grand total of 0 sources when they make broad sweeping statements like this. Like in this bullet point alone, there are like 5 or 6 things that I want cited or sourced, but we get nothing. We get nothing. We're just supposed to believe whatever intern wrote this document. Behavior such as ignoring or disbelieving the experiences of people of color, staying silent when someone else makes a racist remark, or even something as simple as staying out of it, silence is violence, when people discuss race can fuel the underpinnings of discrimination. In a stark study on implicit bias in the hiring process, black applicants without a criminal record were about as likely to be called for a second interview as a white applicant with a criminal record when the resume was otherwise identical. Let's just take a look at that real quick. Oh, shit. Sequencing employment, facing employment. Okay, I'm not going to look at that right now. Oh, no, we lost our spot. I tried to get fancy. Hang on, hang on, hang on. There it is. Okay. Make it big again. All right. Microaggressions. People often think of racism as the KKK members in hoods burning crosses in people's yards or racially profiling by law enforcement officers because workplace racism is often more covert and might show up in microaggressions, such as small jokes, veiled insults, or acts of power that negatively comment on a person's race, ethnicity, or culture. This may seem small in the moment, a paper cut, but when compounded, 1,000 paper cuts, they can do incredible damage. All right, this is a good opportunity to remind people that I have actually extensively reviewed the literature surrounding microaggressions, and there is 0 evidence that microaggressions are a real thing that affect all people in predictable ways. And the only person that seems to assert that they are is the person that actually invented them. He teaches at Columbia and he makes a boat ton of money doing microaggression consulting, where he goes into organizations and gets paid to consult about microaggressions, which is a thing that he invented that literally there is no other research backing up. Reflect. In a society where racism benefits some people by taking away opportunities for others, where do you stand? Okay, do you guys hear the assumption that's made in that sentence? In a society where racism benefits some people by taking away opportunities from others, where do you stand? What did they do in that sentence? Does anyone want to take a guess in the chat? I know there's a little delay, but I'll be paying attention to the chat. What did they do in this sentence? In a society where racism benefits some people by taking away opportunities from others, Where do you stand? I'm just gonna look in the chat as I take a sip of my coffee. Let's see. It's a zero-sum game. Yeah, essentially. They're saying they're making the assumption they're making the assumption they're forcing us to agree with the statement. Racism benefits some people by and it's that we they're making us agree with the statement. I'm sorry guys, it's still very early for me. I don't normally do videos at this time. In a society where racism benefits some people by taking away opportunities from others, they're making us agree with that statement in this reflection. Are you someone who has been disadvantaged or advantaged by racist infrastructure? No. Think carefully about whether or not your wealth, income, treatment by the criminal justice system, employment, access to housing, healthcare, political power, and education might be different if you were a different race. Well, my political power right now would actually substantially be increased based on being a member of the Democratic Party. Has nothing to do with my race. That's how I could increase my political power right this second. Let's see. I'm not going to go through well, okay, maybe we do the discussions. Okay. Deeper group discussions. Can we go around and suggest some appropriate responses when we witness someone expressing personal bias? Oh, dude. They're actually asking people to brainstorm around how to call their colleagues out on their inherent racism. That's what they're saying here. Can we have a discussion and go around and suggest some appropriate responses when we witness someone expressing personal bias? Like, that comment was racist. Is that what you meant to say? We don't make racist comments. And Disney is actually in a corporate training guide training its employees to have struggle sessions. This is what this is. This is literally training employees to bring struggle sessions to work. Make struggle sessions great again. Can you suggest some appropriate responses from a person who gets called out? I'm sorry for the offense I caused. I hear you. I didn't realize that was. I'm just right now imagining. Thank God I work for myself because I'm just right now imagining what I would do if a colleague told me I was being racist and I was expected to say, "I didn't realize that was racist." Okay. Oh, breathe. I didn't realize that was racist and I apologize. I won't repeat it. Oh my god, I would get fired so quickly now. It's not even funny how quickly I would get fired. Disney used to be anti-commie. What happened? I don't know, dude, but they're not anti-commie anymore, I'll tell you what. Pro inclusion tip. Acknowledge that everyone has unconscious bias no matter who we are. Our brains prompt us to hold on to them, and though we cannot always control the messages we receive, we can certainly control what we do with them. Adrian, you're not kidding. In fact, I'm going to put a whole bunch of mimosa emojis in the chat right now. I wish I had a mimosa. Like, you have no idea. Robert Wills, 3 days till I get my new fake leg. I'll be posting a bit of my reaction to it on Adam's Locals. I wish I could afford both. Be blessed, Carlin. Thank you, Robert. Well, and I appreciate the super chat. All right. Becoming an anti-racist today. Interrupting bias. So, how do you interrupt biases you might not even know you have, and in some cases are adamantly opposed to? Here are 5 ways to begin. 1. Be proactive. Hang on. Naruto, I went back yesterday and watched Friday's training session from the beginning. I know the H word gets thrown around a lot these days. Anti-racism summer camps sound a little H word youthy to me. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, dude. That anti-racist summer camp. Guys, if you didn't see the happy hour from Friday, basically half of it was a sales pitch for an anti-racism summer camp for children. For children. What was the ages, like 5 through 10 or something like that? For children. It was for a summer camp for children. That's what it was. Yeah. All right. Be proactive. You're already taking the first step by reading this guide. Guys, we are proactive. We are on our way to being good little allies. Congratulations to us. Take it further and educate yourself by reading guides about racism or fiction written by people who have a different racial identity than you do. Nonfiction creates awareness of hidden bias, and fiction creates empathy for others. Contribute financially and verbally support businesses owned by underrepresented groups. Reach out. Ask for honest, direct feedback from colleagues about your speech and behavior. You might need someone else to shine a light on areas where you're in the dark. Be open. When someone gives you feedback, try not to take it personally if what they've said is upsetting. Just listen and allow yourselves a few days to ponder whether there might be some truth behind their comments. Speak up. And of course, they never say like what happens, what you do if you still consider their comments to be bullshit after a couple days. No, because they just assume that with a few thoughtful days of reflection, you will come around to believing you are a racist. Robert says, meant to say my niece, sorry. Forgot to say it's the cause of her name that will be on it. All good, Robert. Looking forward to you getting your leg, buddy. Stand up for others who are being discriminated against in both covert ways. Not getting an invitation to not getting an invitation to lunch. Dude. Not being included in a meeting with See, these are the microaggressions that I'm talking about. These are the microaggressions that, like, when these started popping up a couple of years ago in clients, I was like, what the hell is going on? Not getting an invitation to lunch, not being included in a meeting with peers, having to do twice the work for half the credit, and overt ways, bearing the brunt of blame, being talked over in a meeting, etc. Pro inclusion tip: listen to the experiences of others, especially those with marginalized identities. These groups treated as insignificant or peripheral, who often don't have equal say in decision. Well, you know who doesn't have equal say in decision making? Anyone who's not a manager or a director or someone who is in the actual decision making position. In the workplace, dude, okay, guys, spoiler. In the workplace, not everyone has an equal say in terms of decision making. That's why there is an organizational chart. That's why there is a hierarchy. The higher up the organizational chart you go, the closer to decision making power you have. If you are low on the organizational chart, like an entry level employee, no, you are probably not going to have access to decision making at that point. That's part of the process. God. I wonder if it's Disney's intention to create a little communist utopia inside of Disney, because if they're telling people that, you have to, like, who often don't have equal is Disney actually saying, in order to be inclusive, they want to give everyone that works at Disney equal access to decision making capabilities? Is that what they're saying? It kind of sounds like what Disney's saying. Give them the floor in meetings or on calls, even if that means silencing yourself to do so. Okay. Did Disney really just tell their managers, their directors, their leaders to silence themselves? To give other people more power in decision making? Then why did you promote them to these positions in the first place? If you don't want them to take responsibility for decision making, then why did you put them literally in decision making positions in the first place? Just saying. Working towards inclusivity and belonging. After you've confronted your own biases and are helping to put a stop to discrimination, work diligently to build a workplace that is inclusive of people of color and help them feel like they belong. Make some of the practical changes that can help make work life more inclusive. Now, this is the one that got my attention when I was scrolling through it earlier. Change number 1: mindfully. That's not what, this isn't what mindful, dude. Hang on. You see this book? You see this book? This is an actual book about mindfulness in the workplace. I wrote this book. Look, my name's on it and everything. This is an actual book about mindfulness in the workplace. What we're talking about here has nothing to do with mindfulness. And frankly, the fact that they're using mindfully really pisses me off in a very non-mindfulness way, because I've literally written a book about this stuff. God. Reasonability says I can't say what I want to because YouTube is censoring my super chat. They keep telling me to rewrite it. So much for freedom of speech. Well, I'm sorry about that. Reasonability. Colin said, did they just say silence is violence? Doesn't that mean they're promoting themselves being violent? Yeah. Okay. Mindfully hand out high value projects. Reconsider who is capable of doing important jobs and look outside of your small team of champions. Okay. In this bullet point, they are literally telling managers to hand out high value projects to people outside of their team based on their skin color. That's what they're telling them. Reconsider who is capable of doing important jobs and look outside of your small team of champions. Chances are someone who is not on your usual list can excel at the job, says Joyce, former general counsel for Nokia. They're literally telling managers to go outside of their team to find a black person to give the high value projects to. Okay. Respond quickly to double standards and idea theft. When you see the instances of majority group members taking or being given credit for ideas that people of color originally offered, speak up and give the idea originators their due. Change number 3, seek opinions from those who don't speak up. Some people are brought up to be modest, or I think that meant or quiet, which can lead them to hold back their opinions. Counter this by actively seeking out their thoughts. Jackie, you're experienced here. What's your take on this? Okay, there are different work styles that different work styles tend not to speak up as much at work. If you have the steadiness work style, you tend not to speak up as much at work, whereas someone with the influencer work style, this is all based on the DISC model, is going to throw their ideas out there and they don't care. What this is talking about is not about race. This is not about race. This is about work style. If Jackie has a steady work style, which is like the office mom, they tend to be quiet. They don't want to be in the spotlight. They tend to put themselves in more of a supporter position. If Jackie has that work style, no, she's probably not going to speak up. And that's true whether she's white or black or brown or whatever. So many of these grievances that these people have with the workplace, it is based entirely on work style. It is a work style problem. It is not a race problem. There is no evidence that your race is correlated to your work style. Change number 4, learn what to say and what not to say. People with the best of intentions are often unwittingly causing harm with their language, especially during tumultuous times like we're living in today. The guide on the next page, adopted from a Forbes contributor and executive coach, offers some insight. Guys, fun fact. So I used to write for Forbes. Now, granted, I haven't written for Forbes in well over a year, but I had never actually heard from them. But apparently I am now a former contributor based on my byline on the website, which I thought was kind of funny. It was like they fired me and they didn't even tell me they fired me, which is fine because I didn't really want to write for them anymore anyway. All right. Oh, good. What to say, what not to say. Okay. What we should not say to our black colleagues. I'm scared to say the wrong thing to you. This asks your black colleagues to either console you or to help you figure out what to say, which isn't fair. What to say instead? I'm having conversations about racism with my non-black family and friends, even though I'm afraid. This shows black colleagues that you are being courageous enough to take a stand. Okay. What not to say if you are a white employee. I hope and pray things change soon. This shows that you mean well, but meaning well isn't enough. This is a time to do well. What to say instead? I'm taking these steps to become a better ally. I'm shutting down racist comments on my team. I'm supporting the fight against racism by calling my representatives backing black businesses or X, Y, B, and Z. This shows you're paying more lip service to the anti-racism movement. More than lip service. What not to say? I can't wait for things to calm down and get back to normal. This says your comfort is more important than the message of anti-racism. Yes. What to say instead? I realize my discomfort is a fraction of what you're feeling. Dude, if I ever said this to Shamika Michelle, she would look at me like I had three heads. I'm gonna say this to her next time I see her in person. I'm gonna say, Shamika, I realize my discomfort is a fraction of what you're feeling. I'm a- I'm absolutely gonna do this. She's gonna look at me like, uh-huh. Okay. Acknowledge that while you might feel unsettled right now, Black people are exhausted, mentally drained, frustrated, stressed, barely sleeping, scared, and overwhelmed. Feelings which demand empathy and action. Pro inclusion tip: to create unity in your group, talk about your organization's shared values. Use common examples of cooperation that everyone can relate to, no matter their identity, like hospital staff working in unison to save a patient or sports teams playing together to win the game. We're all human, and we all want to feel like we're part of something greater than ourselves. Building belonging. Belonging means being part of a group, sharing with others, and feeling secure enough to be who you really are. No matter where we come from, we all want to belong. It's human nature, and the one thing we all have in common. When employees feel they belong, performance and retention increases. Okay, true, true, true. This is true. We have one, we are on page 87 of this document. Not quite, but we have actually found something that is true. When employees feel they belong, performance and retention increases. That is correct. Okay. I'm gonna just revel in this little victory that they have one correct thing in this entire document. All right. When they feel they don't belong, their work can suffer. And if enough people feel the same, the entire company can suffer. Recognize okay, all sorts of icons, whatever. Have you heard the term intersectionality? Basically, it's a way in which different forms of discrimination overlap. For example, a Black person who is also a member of LGBT community or a Chinese American who is disabled face different and greater discrimination than someone who only carries one marginalized identity. Discussion starter number 2. Stanford University research shows that helping people of color feel like they belong significantly reduces stress levels and improves physical health, emotional well-being, and performance. If you're a person of color, can you comment on that? Can any people of color comment on this in the chat? How does your stress level impact your performance given the state of our communities right now? Well, okay, so the reason that I wrote an actual book about mindfulness at work is that this is actually true. Your stress level does impact your performance, but that's actually true of everyone, and everyone can feel stressed for different reasons. And it's not just about what is going on in the world. You can experience stress from what happens in your personal life too that impacts how you do at work, which is why we should practice actual mindfulness, not made up mindfulness like in this document. Nope. I just knocked something off my desk. Whatever. Okay. Deeper discussions. If you're not a person of color, how does your stress level? Okay. Let's just pause it for a moment here. They're asking white people how their stress level impacts their performance. Do you think for one red second that any white person would be able to say, well, I feel stressed because of reasons X, Y, B, and Z, and this is how it impacts my performance? That's not what they're looking for. That's not they're looking for a white person to say, something to the effect of, my stress is nothing compared to the stress that my BIPOC colleagues feel in this very important moment. That's what they're looking for. Can you empathize with those who might not have intersectional stress? Who might have that's exactly, and they confirm that. Can you empathize with those who might have intersectional stressors? How can we all be more transparent in our communication with one another? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's actually a good question. What concrete steps can we take to ensure everyone feels comfortable to express themselves about their concerns? But not everyone's going to feel comfortable to express themselves about their concerns because you just spent the entire first half of the document telling white people to shut up. Like, this is pathetic. In the back half of the document, they get to the place where they're like, what concrete steps can we take to make sure that everyone feels that they can express their concerns? Dude, dude, what changes can we make this month to build a more inclusive environment? Pro inclusion tip: someone's race or ethnicity isn't a taboo topic. Talk openly about it to appeal to everyone's conscious values and challenge their unconscious bias. We cannot address racial injustice in the workplace if you do not acknowledge that different experiences exist for people. But be aware that if you're going to talk about race and identity, okay, excuse me, guys, sorry. But be aware if you're going to talk about race, identify everyone's race, including those who are white. By identifying someone as black or Latinx, but not categorizing someone as white, you're saying that white is the norm by which all other races are measured. No, you're actually saying that white is the norm by which all other races are measured because you've written an entire document about it. Dude. Ashley Shannon gives some great advice. Mount that like button like Biden with no cameras around. Thank you, Ashley Shannon. All right. Part 3. Oh, we've got another baseball thing. We have another baseball thing. Looking forward, equity, not equality. Let's just have a brief reminder that this is Disney's internal training document. Disney is promoting equity, not equality. Equality is a noble goal. Equal treatment and access to opportunities help each of us perform our best within a shared set of parameters. But we really need to be striving for equity, where we focus on the equality of outcome. They're saying the quiet part out loud. Holy shit. They're actually saying the quiet part out loud. But not the equality of the experience by taking individual needs and skills into account. And we have our nice baseball analogy, of course. And, here's the question. Oh, it's soccer. Oh, I'm sorry. They're playing soccer in this example. It's not baseball, it's soccer. But why can't they just buy a ticket and get this kid in the wheelchair into like a nice handicap seat where he doesn't need to have a ramp built outside a fence? So, what can you do about racism? Krishna says to do this to combat it in your organization. Okay, leaders. What can organizational leaders do to combat racism? Take some time to step back and reflect on the diversity inclusion strategies you are presently pursuing. Okay. Make them even better by building a leadership team with people of color at the helm to identify objectives, aspirations, and solutions for real change. They just literally said that you should only promote people of color to your leadership team. Check Chris Rufo's Twitter. Disney just publicly commented. Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Breaking news from Chris Rufo's Twitter. Disney has released a statement claiming that my reporting distorted their anti-racism program. This is false. I published direct quotations, contextual screenshots, and the original source documents in their entirety. Disney is distorting the truth, and I won't stand for it. Okay, let's take a look at their statement. These internal documents are being deliberately distortive as reflective of company policy when in fact their purpose was to allow diversity of thought and discussion on an incredibly complex and challenging issue of race and discrimination that we as a society and companies nationwide are facing. The Disney brand has a long history of inclusivity with stories that reflect acceptance and tolerance and celebrate people's differences, as we have consistently demonstrated in such popular films as Mona, Coco, Black Panther, Soul and Raya, and The Last Dragon. And as a global entertainment company, we are committed to continuing to tell stories that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience. Quote tweet. Pretty soon, they'll be changing their outgoing message on their phone system to tell people Chris's reporting is inaccurate. Congrats, Kiss, on exposing this insanity. All right, back to our resources document. Personally list your 3 greatest strengths you can leverage to meet the group's goals and write out actions you're taking starting today. All right, that has nothing to do with race. Everyone can be a change agent by calling out microaggressions and other racist behavior when you witness them. Speak up to leadership about discriminatory policies and hiring practices, and ask when these changes will be made. Pass the mic to those who feel excluded and silenced, redirecting the conversation using their names so their voices can be heard. All right, so we're again telling white people to shut up. That's what they're saying. Don't you, it's not your job to speak about this, allies. In your workplace, you, yes, you, can be the person who helps your colleagues feel like they belong and encourages them to live authentically at work, a goal for every single individual, no matter who they happen to be. Discussion number 3. It is important to educate ourselves about our implicit biases and how they support systemic racism across the globe. It is vital to make a difference in our workplaces and communities. Let's go around the group and discuss this question. What actionable steps can you take to be an anti-racist? Do you feel equipped to become part of the solution? If not, will you commit to learning more using some of the resources that follow? No, I will not commit to reading some of the resources that follows. They aren't including stories about Uyghurs. They don't care about Uyghurs, dude. Don't care about them. No one cares about Uyghurs. And I'm saying that facetiously for people who don't know. Like, I certainly, like, it's something that I care about, but like, no one's doing anything about it. And the Biden administration just thinks it's different cultural norms. So here we are. How can we, as a group, support everyone as they learn more about anti-racism? What changes should our organization make within the month to support anti-racism? What questions do you have about anti-racism? You know what's actually pretty brilliant about this? Is Disney is basically denying that these documents reflect their company policy. Indirectly, of course, but that's what they did with this statement. Good for Rufo. All right, resources for further reading. This is just a bunch of resources. And then that's it. That's it. So, guys, that is our Disney anti-racist training document for the day. I'm glad that only took me an hour. So we'll see what Disney does now. I mean, Disney's just come out and has denied that this actually represents their reality. These internal documents are being deliberately distorted as a reflective of company policy. Well, that would beg the question for me. What is the company policy, Disney? What is the company policy? If it's not in these documents, then what is it? I think that that's a very fair question. All right, guys, I'm going to head out. I hope you had fun on this little impromptu live stream. And yeah, we'll catch you later. Have a good day.